What's up? Welcome to another episode of I'm Will Bryant. As always, I'm your host. I'm Will Bryant. And right away, show's ruined. I gotta sit down and I gotta record these. And I can choose every reason in the world to procrastinate. And quite often, I usually do. But enough is enough. You got to sit down and you got to do what you got to do. So here I am recording this intro for you today. And I wasn't going to procrastinate for another second longer. Although let me talk to you, about a reason I could have chosen to wait even longer. It's because for those of you guys, for those of you listening, you're just going to have to trust me on this. For you guys watching out there on YouTube, you can see it for yourself. For some reason, moments before I decided to record this video intro for this week's episode, my skin decided to play a little prank on me. My skin, right between the eyes and the eyebrows, started to just itch like a mother. And so I started scratching it. Unbeknownst to me, irritating my skin and giving myself a stupid, nerdy, obnoxious, silly, pathetic looking red blotch smack dab in the middle of my face. And that's how I'm starting the show. With what looks like a freaking rash. Couldn't have been more centered right on my face. And I you know what? Could have waited it out. Could have told myself, let's wait for the moneymaker to be blemish free and ready to go. But you know what? I said no. This needs to be recorded right now. No more procrastinating. I gotta do what I gotta do. So for you guys watching on YouTube, congratulations. Cheers to you. You get to see me looking like an itchy little fool. You know what? Maybe I should just keep scratching it so that it gets even more red by the end of this video. How about that? Yeah? And for y'all listening, maybe you guys chose correctly this week so that my image, your opinion of me, doesn't get any lower than it already is. Because I know. I'm basement level in terms of my image here. I mean, yeah, I know what I'm working with. And I just put a big stupid red mark in the middle of what I'm working with. It's not good. But I carry on. I move on. I march on. I walk on. I'm not going to let it slow me down. See, in a lot of ways, this all kind of ties in to this week's episode. See, because this week I bring to you, I present to you a new acquaintance of mine. This week, you guys get to sit in on a conversation between me and Hava. Hava is a young upstart, kind of still fresh and new to the city. New York City, that is. She is a content creator. She creates a bunch of videos, mostly long form on YouTube. From a bunch of random things like getting her haircut to getting her ears pierced for the first time to exploring new places in the city because she's freshly moved in from Texas. Don't hold that against her, though. She even recorded videos of her first trip to Yankee Stadium and to Citi Field. We talk about that. In fact, we talk about a lot. And it's interesting, this conversation I had with Hava. See, I met Hava at a networking event for up and coming young podcasters. I'm getting out there, you see, for this show, and for no other reason, really. We met and we had a pretty cool conversation, and something was obvious to me right away. I felt like we're on at least the surface level pretty opposites. I think she's very type A, I think I'm very type B in terms of personalities. We talk about that on the show. And, man, even in terms of the content that we put out, pretty different. I told her in person, and I believe on this episode, that I find her videos, her content to be very polished, very clean cut. And I don't just mean in terms of like not cursing, although it is that as well. It looks very much like a finished product. It looks very professional, and it's very well done for most of it being just her, and now even just a small team. Me, I don't think I have that look or that sound to my show, but here I am drinking while talking about this. However, drinking white wine. So, perhaps this conversation with Hava has had some effect on me. Usually I'm just pounding PBRs over here. Another way this conversation with Hava actually truly did affect me. This is the first time, or Hava was the first guest that I ever scheduled a podcast recording in the morning for. Josh, who you guys have already listened to 2 episodes of me and Josh, we were actually the first time ever recording in the morning, but that was only possible because I had already scheduled Hava to record in the morning before that. We just happened to record after me and Josh did. It kind of made me realize that this podcast I used to just record it on my day off, take it easy and you guys know, drink on the show if I didn't have work later on. But something about Hava's freaking just go get 'em attitude made me okay with scheduling the recording session for 11 in the morning on a Monday. Her idea, not mine, by the way, but I was up for it. And it really sparked this new raised work ethic in me, where I just started scheduling guests left and right. Any free day that I had, any free time that I had, even if it was before work, I was scheduling guests to the point where right now, at the point of this episode, I will have already recorded and have ready to be published the next 6 episodes from here on out. That means 6 weeks. I mean, it is. Well, this is coming out March. I don't know, week after St. Patrick's Day. What is that? You guys tell me. And I will have already recorded episodes until April 22nd. And a lot of that's because me recording this episode and how well this conversation turned out really kind of inspired me to just put this podcast work ethic into overdrive a little bit. I think you guys can see in this conversation, and will see, that both Hava and I start getting a lot more out of this episode, this conversation, than I think either one of us really expected. I will be honest with you guys, as I believe I was with her. I didn't really know what to expect from this conversation. It was one of the few times that I've ever done an episode like this with someone that is truly just an acquaintance and not someone that I am either friends with or coworkers with. So it took a lot of trust, I think, on her part, and I guess a little bit on mine, for us to finally get to a part in the conversation where we felt like this was enlightening and beneficial to both of us. There's definitely a point where you guys will see that we're both really enjoying our conversation with each other, and I can truly say that I learned a lot from this conversation. So I'm really glad that it was recorded on audio and visual, and that I can bring this to you guys. It was truly a pleasure to have this conversation with her, and I'm glad that I connected with her at this event and was able to make this happen. Without further ado, guys, please enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Ladies and gentlemen, Hava. That's the official start. I want to get a sound, like a clapperboard. Yeah, I do.
Just beware of the ones on Amazon, because some of them say they're the dry erase.
Oh, and
they're fucking not.
Oh, wow.
They're not. Because I ordered one and I thought it was a mistake, and I ordered another, and then I was like,
oh no,
I'm just returning these.
You know what's funny?
Because I wanted to actually use it like as director, like write down take 1, take 2, and I'm like, I can't erase this.
And I want my name on it too. Like so that would suck if it's all right. Maybe I need to invest in something a little bit better than Amazon. Right off the bat, I want to say that you've already thrown a curveball at me.
Oh, have I?
Yeah. So I like I said, this is a very unstructured and pretty unfiltered podcast.
Yeah.
I've said some ridiculous, raunchy stuff here. And I told myself going into this today to almost be on my best behavior. And
for what it's worth to you, I'm not going to cuss much.
Well, you in like the first sentence of the podcast, you threw an F-bomb in there. You
can snip it.
Don't, no, it's fucking staying. So
it's got just a little real. I don't actually,
because your content. Yeah, exactly.
I don't. I've bleeped out myself a few times.
What have you said that you have to bleep out?
I mean, just like shit.
Okay.
You know, like I like, because I want to keep it clean, and like I've become aware in the past that there's a younger audience following me too, which is never my intention. I'm not targeting middle schoolers or elementary school. I mean, middle schoolers like hear these words at school, but I'm not targeting that group. But it's like, well, if I want to have a more universal appeal, and not in the sense of if you target everyone, you're targeting no one. I went to marketing for school. I know all that stuff, but there is still an element of your content is more inclusive theoretically if you're not cussing, whether it's an age thing or just some people are sensitive to cuss words, and also brand friendly.
Right.
By creating content that is clean in that way, it helps. And, as far as other non-PG topics go, it's just not what I focus on. But as a person, like hi, I'm a 26-year-old adult. I know the cuss words. I use the cuss words, and yes, I know what sex is. I'm an adult, which it sounds.
That was going to be my next question.
An adult, but you wouldn't believe, because, and this is maybe a strange thing to say, and for anyone who's only listening to audio, I'm going to reveal that I'm a very small person, and I always have been. And because also I was very innocent, especially in high school, people, would treat me like I was a kid, and I was younger than I was, even my peers. And that was always very weird to me. So, I mean, total side note, I guess, that I've loved that since I've moved to New York and had a totally fresh start, and barely anyone that I knew from my past even lives in New York. It's been nice to be able to just reinvent myself and be who I want to be as an adult. And nobody thinks twice,
Right.
Because this is just who they know because they met me here.
Yeah, I get that. I think the reason why I was so cognizant of it is, so we met at a networking event about a month ago, maybe not even about a month ago.
About a month. I can't believe how fast the time has flown.
I know. That event was for podcasting specifically.
Yeah.
And then we met again, although we had a good conversation on that at that event.
Yeah.
And you agreed to be on the show just from that.
Yeah, I feel like that's where we connected more.
For sure.
The comedy ones, there's so many people there.
So unfortunately, like you said, you got there late for the comedy networking event, which was I think just 2 weeks later.
Yeah.
And I was already in a group conversation with a bunch of people at that point. And I remember seeing you from across the room, and I didn't want you to feel like, oh, he's not talking to me this week.
I felt the same way, but I was like, we've already connected. We're going to talk. Yeah. And I was like, I'm going to meet some other people today because I was there on a mission.
Exactly.
I was actually there for a very specific purpose, which I accomplished.
What was that purpose?
That purpose was to meet some comedians, kind of get to know the community. I happen to have a burst of inspiration while I was there, since I'm working on a piece related to comedy, which I can get into in a minute, but that will sort of be a whole side tangent. So I'm going to try to stay on track with this point. Yeah. But I wanted to meet a few comedians and see if anyone was interested in being filmed, for me to kind of showcase the local comedy scene and show some comedians who would be willing to tell a joke. And, I got one or two people to do that before I sort of made an announcement and said, hey, because I was like, I gotta go because I'm gonna have client calls soon. But
Yeah.
I was hoping for a few others, so that way, hopefully no one's offended, but I can
And
kind of
that's
pick
what
and
I
choose.
was going to bring up was I remember you saying that. And I remember, was her name Sophia? I forgot. I met so many people that day. It's funny though.
Yeah.
There was someone that did record something with you, and I remember you specifically
Was
saying,
it the one, the girl who like looked through her computer?
Yes.
I think that was Sophia, but I got her name. I wrote it down.
Yeah, I mean,
I wrote it down to give credit.
She's gonna be on the show eventually, so I'll learn her name before she gets on the show. But you had told her,
like Sophie, if you're listening, we'll confirm
If
that's
that
your
is
name.
your name,
And if it's not your name,
sorry,
sorry,
we'll fix it by the time you're on. But you told her preferably a clean joke. And in my head, I was like, "Oh man, I need to clean up my act for." And I don't mean my stage act. I mean like as a person.
Really?
I have to, because I'll get on here and I'll just be like, "What the fuck is up, guys?" You
right?
And
it's catering to your audience, though.
I guess, yeah.
And it's creating what you want to create.
Right. And I was like, let me not be such a scumbag when Hava's on this show.
So this is something you've been actively thinking about, just to tailor to the guest or to tailor your own content?
The guest more. So you are. Actually, I wanted to thank you.
I feel like I'm coming onto your show as whoever I am, but I'm on your turf.
As the host, I would prefer to kind of acquiesce to the guest. But what I will say is that I wanted to thank you for a couple of reasons that are like a little outside the box. One, you're essentially my first, you're my first guest that is not either a friend of mine. Mm-hmm. Like I don't mean that as an insult.
No, yeah. We're not like personal friends. This is a professional.
Exactly. And we just met like a month ago. So you're not like a friend of mine or a coworker of mine. Okay. This is like my first foray into like, let's network, let's connect, and let's make something happen essentially. So that I felt like was a good icebreaker. We were just talking about how I get nerves from inviting or asking people to be on the show. Mm-hmm. So inviting you to be on the show, you were one of the first non-friends, non-coworkers that I did extend that invite
Hopefully
to.
I put you at ease.
It was a great way to like break the ice, because that actually got me started to invite or ask a lot of people. And since I got you to agree, I've probably booked another, I'd say 10 guests to be on the show. Yeah,
I'm honored that I could be like a catalyst in that. You know, I mean,
furthermore,
now I'm like feeling inspired because I need to work on myself with some of this stuff.
No, you're helping. This is if that flattered you, this is gonna flatter you even more. You are also kind of pushing me in a way to attack this podcasting in a more I don't know what the word is, but like I'm trying to get more organized and on the offensive in terms of just making my goals happen.
Are you listening to my phone conversations with my mom? Are you tapping my phone? Because that sounds very similar to a conversation I had this weekend.
I am watching a lot of your videos, so I think that what was the conversation with your mom?
I was talking, to my mom and my boyfriend, because I feel like I repeat myself to my close ones, but I've been talking about how something that I realized I've been missing until I have a friend, and this is just like personal life friend, kind of person I go to sports games with, who is also very career driven. And I realized that how career driven a person is, it's almost like on a spectrum. And sure, there's the people who really couldn't care less about work and their jobs. There's the people that take their jobs seriously. And then there's the other side of the spectrum, which is people who are like super serious about their career. They're going somewhere. They want to make things happen. And they are willing to go way above and beyond what their job or career would ask of them because they want to, because they're ambitious. Mm-hmm. And, I have a friend who I sat down with, we were talking about networking because, sort of on that networking thing, which I'm excited to talk more about. In 2024, one of my intentions is to really build, grow, and strengthen my professional network, because I've lived in the city for over 2 years, like 2.5 years now, and I cannot like pride myself on a strong professional network. Mm-hmm. And I certainly have reasons that are justified, but it doesn't need to keep being that way. And I started to realize I'm going to all these events, I'm meeting all these people, and I have no way to capture it. So what's the value of meeting all these people if I then just like, okay, we follow each other on Instagram, and then one day in the far future, I'm like, who is that person? And I unfollow them.
Right.
Like, there's no value. How do you capture your network? And I realized I have a friend who is somehow really good at this. We sat down. He showed me his spreadsheet. I basically took it as a template and put in my own contacts and started building this out, which has been great. It's even got, I think, formulas where it can tell me like, oh, like if you want to, you know, talk to this person quarterly, you're late, or it's coming up, you need to talk to this person. So it keeps your network alive and thriving. And not that, I mean, I've just started doing this, so not that it's necessarily going to be perfect, but I was like, okay, great, I can capture this network. But in the conversation that we had, it made me realize also, because our conversation, again, it's a friend and we're both excited about our careers. He does something totally different because he's into sports.
Okay.
So it's entirely different than me as a creator and a performer. But still, a lot of the principles that go into professionalism are transferable. Sure. It just looks a little bit different, you know, on who you talk to and what parts of, say, building a website are important in your career. But being in a conversation with someone where we're building each other up, we're sort of synergizing about professional strategy, suddenly kind of brought me to life in a way. Like, I mean, I'm a very energetic person and I'm serious of my career regardless of talking to a friend about it. But it made me realize that is something I've been missing, which is other people where I can have conversations that are about networking and branding and all these different topics where we're building each other up, we're synergizing, and I walk away so motivated, so ready.
Exactly.
And that's something where I'm like, this conversation, I had no idea it was going to take this turn, but like, wow, like the fact that you're like instantly straight in with the networking and incorporating other people to elevate your content, that is right on par with something I'm working on. So
that's exactly why I wanted to start off by essentially thanking you in a way to I guess you had someone, you know, actualize that for you.
This was after we met, though.
Oh, really? That's funny.
This is after we met.
You did it for me, and it was so simple too. Like, so there are two things about you that really, I think, kind of kickstarted me into another gear with this podcast specifically. Because, see, when I did it for the first year and I was recording on my own schedule, I was very, like, blasé with it. I was like, whatever. Now that I'm having guests, I try to work around them and their schedule. And when we were trying to find a time that we can do this, you threw out, I believe, this exact
I did. I was just like, let me just see if this works.
And it was, we're doing this at, we're supposed to start at 11:30 before I threw water all over my equipment and delayed us. But you suggested 11:30 in the morning, and I had never recorded in the AM.
Really?
More often than not, I record on like my days off, and I've never... This is the first podcast I ever scheduled to be in the morning, and not just in the morning, but like before work. Like I have work later on.
Yeah. Well, we first met in a situation like this. We first met on a Monday midday.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
And so that's why I was like, well, that would be a convenient day for me. I wonder if that's like a routinely good time for him. And
so my schedule changes every week at work, but as a bartender, it's not rare to have a morning or an early afternoon off. So that's exactly, I don't go until 6 p.m. today. So that's exactly the case.
And I usually start at 4:30 with my other job.
There you go. So that, I was also trying to set up an interview and schedule it with an old buddy of mine, and he's from Philly, and he was only going to be in town for like a day or two. So it was, you know, really rough trying to find common time, and I didn't want to miss that opportunity.
Yeah.
And I threw out, because I had just scheduled this day with you, I threw out, well, I'm now suddenly open to the idea of doing podcasts in the morning, even if I have work later on, something that I wasn't giving myself an option for before. And I just recorded that, even though this was the first podcast I scheduled in the morning.
Yeah.
I had recorded that podcast with him last week. And it really wouldn't have happened had I not basically planned to meet with you at this time and realized there's no reason why I can't do this.
Yes.
You know? So another, like, I guess a little flower that I want to give you is, like, you motivated me to, like, take this even a little bit more seriously. And I think that goes back to what you were saying, meeting people and networking with people that kind of step your game up, and you take something from someone else and learn from that and use it in your own avenue to improve on whatever you want to do or create.
Exactly. And there's also an element of, like, you know, we've all heard, sorry, as a side note, I'm like, I know we're having a conversation, but I'm so conscious of the camera because I love talking to the camera because I'm a video creator. So I'm used to treating the camera like, okay, this is the third person in our conversation. So I'm like fighting the urge, not fighting the urge. But anyway,
because you're normally talking to the camera.
Normally I'm talking to the camera, and over time I've just come to be a lot more casual in front of the camera too, where I'm not going to change my demeanor just because the camera is there.
Okay.
It's like, you know, it's like I come alive, and I'm learning in this moment, like since we've been sitting here, I've been realizing that although I've never had a mic in front of me in a podcast setting, I've really only had a mic of this type. I certainly use mics for my video work, but the kind of mic like this, I've only ever held on stage when I'm singing.
Right.
And I'm suddenly like, wait, this feels awesome. I'm having a conversation with someone and there's a mic right here. Like, oh gosh, this is cool.
I've noticed that my guests do enjoy that a lot. Like, this feels cool.
Yes,
like, being
it
in front
does.
of a mic and a light.
Like, before I put the what do you call it again?
Pop filter.
The pop filter. Oh, I thought the pop filters were the ones that were so that when you like sing and do like a
so like this is a version of a pop filter where you don't need that, like, because I used to have like the screen in front.
Yeah.
I just found these to be easier, and they essentially do the same thing.
And for anyone listening, we're talking about the little foamy cover
mic
on
foams,
top of a mic that you would see on stage, but we're not on stage.
Every guest of mine can choose their own color pop filter, and Hava chose black.
Yeah, well, I'm wearing all black today, so. That's just
to match her soul.
That's my vibe today. Yes, all black.
So you touched.
I totally lost my train of thought, and I apologize.
Don't worry, that's what I'm kind of.
I don't know where the train went.
I toyed with calling this podcast Sidebar with Will Bryant, because what happens is I will start on a topic and then sidebar and then sidebar and then sidebar.
I'm very tangential. Like, is that how you say tangential?
Tangential. I believe you got it. Don't worry. This isn't a grammar podcast.
Very. Like windy with that. But, I know where it was. I was sort of to what you were saying about surrounding yourself with people who encourage you to be better. Not directly, like me saying, Will, be a better podcaster. But, just we've all heard the saying of, you become like who you spend time with. And consciously surrounding myself with people who push me to be a better person, not just as a friend, which, I'm selective with who I choose to be friends with, which I think is a good thing.
I think so.
But also professionally, making a conscious effort to, like, surround myself with people or have these conversations with people who are going to encourage me to be better, not people who are talking about calling in a sick day because of whatever, which, like, no judgment, to be clear to anyone listening. Like, you don't have to feel the same way about your career that I do. I mean, a lot of people in my life I love so deeply, and they're not as career driven as I am, and that is okay. And I appreciate them for who they are and what they put into the world. But I recognize that my career is a major place where I can contribute and want to contribute and feel alive. So I want to surround myself with people who, like, ignite that spark and encourage me to push myself a little further. Like you said, like, suddenly you opened up to the idea of doing this time, which may help you get certain guests on, where that's sort of been an expansion that sort of expanded your opportunities and what you're doing. And that's not going to translate exactly for me because I'm not running a podcast, but, that type of thing where it's like, just pushes me a little bit more, It's something that I've seen
whenever successful people start talking about who they surround themselves with, and the idea of outgrowing circles that they used to hang out in, and it's just, it's just you realize you're not surrounding yourself in a situation that cultivates your goal and what you need and what you want. And I mean, like, the simplest, for me, the simplest way I ever realized that was like the musician or like the rapper that grows up with his group of friends, and then he's the one that makes it, and he starts surrounding himself with smarter businessmen and more artistically minded people. And then his friends that have no interest in entrepreneurship and music or whatever, if you stay hanging out with them, how much are you really going to grow? The flower can't blossom if the soil is rotten, you know? So it's growth. And I've realized little things like getting out of the corporate world and getting into the bar industry kind of helped me pursue more artistic goals like DJing, you know, and stuff like that. I went back to school for music, and that opened up my eyes, and suddenly I was around people that cared about music or DJing or producing, and that motivated me. Then I got the job at the Comedy Cellar, and I'm just surrounded by
That's an accomplishment.
I think
really?
So too. Yeah. As was covered here in an episode last year.
Does anyone listening, do you know if any of your viewership is not from New York, maybe doesn't know what Comedy Cellar is? Because I feel like, hey, let's plug how great this is. This is I don't know, I don't know if they've heard the episode about Comedy Cellar, but this is kind of a big deal.
Liked and subscribed and reviewed and all that shit. No, but I definitely talked about in the episode where I got hired, and the episode probably that's out right now, where I talked about performing there, that it is prestigious. It is, and you're right. I do realize that I do have a couple of internet. Like I remember, like I'm like, people in Brazil listen to me. That's weird, but it's cool.
Sorry not to like throw you off.
Sidebar, but like when you're surrounded with a bunch of comedians, like to be a comedian, you can't be lazy and like do it halfway. You know, you have to. So I'm just surrounded now by more motivated people, and then I don't think it's any coincidence that in the less than a year that I've been there, I've only continued to grow my podcast, have accomplished more goals in comedy, have been reaching out to more people. So it's just, you have to surround yourself in something that helps you grow, in my opinion. You know, unless you're happy where you are. I mean,
right. I mean, you know, to each his own. But yeah, I'm looking to, you know, expand and grow and you know, go further with that.
I think part of you growing it was your move here. I think that was a big deal for you, know?
That's a really interesting thing, because you just sort of it sort of popped a thought that came up earlier when you were saying something that I think moving here.
You're from Houston.
I'm from Houston originally. So originally I grew up in Texas, which you hear Texas and you think, you know, riding horses and cowboys, but I grew up in the fourth largest, most populous city in the United States. So
I'm always surprised when any place that isn't like New York or Chicago or Boston or LA has like concrete and sidewalks. I think everything else is just
that's the reason for the terrible flooding in Houston. Actually, that's one of the major reasons. You know, you hear about all the, like, I was living in Houston through the Memorial Day flood, the Tax Day flood, all these crazy floods, you know, you heard about. You know,
I saw your video where you were like saving trash cans in a flood.
You saw that? Oh my God, that's hilarious.
My research. Yeah.
And that was just a flash flood.
That's
like,
so
you know,
funny.
Flooding is just sort of something you have to be prepared for at any time in Houston.
Yeah.
And I feel like it sounds so much more dramatic to someone who doesn't live there and isn't used to that concept than someone who is. Granted, it can be wildly inconvenient, but it doesn't hit me as crazy as when I share that kind of thing with people. But that's because a lot of the concrete, I think there's been infrastructural plans they expanded the bayou near my parents' house, because I grew up like in the city, and saying in the city in Houston, you're not going to be picturing the skyscrapers and apartment buildings that you have of New York, because it is Houston, which is a sprawling city. But nonetheless,
what is
I am from a
sprawling city?
Sprawling means that the city expands outward instead of upwards.
Oh,
yes.
I never knew that.
Which is not a good thing when it comes to, you know, preserving nature and stuff.
Got it.
But I grew up in a house, even though I'm from Houston proper. Like my first year of college, I went to Texas A&M University, and the majority of students who go there are from Texas. And one thing that's common at any school, I think, is to ask, oh, where are you from?
Yeah.
And at Texas A&M, you know, it's common to say Houston, San Antonio, Dallas, Austin, El Paso, whatever. But when you say that, you're really referring to the general region. So if you encounter another person who says Houston, or, you know, if I say Houston, the next question is, where?
Right.
Because then people are going to say things like Sugarland, the Woodlands, Missouri City, these are all suburbs. And I'm like, Houston.
Oh,
Like,
God, yours is
I'm from
Houston.
Houston. Like,
Oh,
my address has always said Houston, Texas, not Missouri City, Texas, not Sugarland, Texas, which, side note, I'm not a huge country music person, but being from Texas, I can't help but know some of it.
Got it.
And I like select country music. The band Sugarland, if you've heard of them.
Not really.
Oh, well, they're a pretty well-known country band, I would say, and they are named after that suburb.
I get it. Okay,
Yeah,
nice.
that suburb, Sugarland, Texas.
As a Houston native, how much does our pronunciation of Houston Street piss you off?
Not at all. Not at all, actually. It's like, people will be like, if they find out that I'm from Houston, they'll be like, it's Houston. I'm like, no, it's Houston when you're referring to the large metropolitan area in Texas. It is Houston when you're referring to the major street in New York City. And I say it accordingly. And also, I keep no Yankees gear in Houston, and I keep no Astros gear in New York.
Wow.
I would never. Like, when people are like, I would never wear an Astros cap in New York. I would never wear a Yankees cap in Houston. Like, I don't want to be shouted at.
I feel like it's a little like, I feel like other team clothing in New York is way more common and perhaps even acceptable because we have so many people.
The Astros-Yankees rivalry, that is so intense.
I guess so. You know what it is? For baseball fans, the Astros thing will just piss most of us off just because you guys cheated.
Oh, the
to win the World
2017.
Series.
Don't throw me into it. I don't approve.
Guys,
I don't approve.
You cheaters.
No, yeah, I hated that because I'm like, they shouldn't have cheated. And I believe they were a good enough team to have potentially won without cheating.
Probably.
No one will ever know who would have won.
Yeah.
No one can ever claim. No one knows. And I hate that because I'm like, well, dang, now we don't know. But then I hear people say like, oh, well, they should have had the trophy taken away. I'm like, yeah, that would have been MLB's job to do. Like what team is going to be like giving up their own trophy, even though like that would have been for MLB to do. So I was very glad that a few years later they made it back to the World Series and won honestly. Yeah. Because also I'm like, I thought it was
Wait, did they win again?
Yeah, they did. I think it was 2022.
Okay.
2022. Or 21, 22. I think it was 22. They won again honestly, because I'm like, okay,
they found a better way to cheat. That's what it is.
I'm like, when people were talking about them, like, oh, they're gonna cheat. I'm like, come on, people, let's have a little common sense. Do you know how much they are going to be scrutinized for people watching for that? Like, I believe more than any other team that particular series, you can bet they did not cheat. First of all, that would be so dumb of the team. Not that people don't do dumb things, but also like, I'm just saying, like, people were going to be watching them real hard.
Now, yeah.
So, and, I'm not like I love baseball, but I'm not like the most well-versed person in baseball, but
I saw your videos on visiting Yankee Stadium and then Citi Field.
Oh, yeah. Because I wanted to explore it. I mean, those are like well-known stadiums,
I grew up walking distance from Citi Field. So, and so your video about Flushing Meadow Corona Park, like that.
That place is huge.
Yeah.
There is so much there.
The Unisphere is exactly 1 mile from like the front of my building. So I used to run I would run through that park all the time, and I would start from my building, and I would just always do the first mile directly to the Unisphere, and then go from there wherever I wanted. I've literally ran like the most I've ever ran in one, I guess time was 25 miles, and I did it all in that park. And I started the first mile going to the Unisphere.
That's also a great place. The cherry blossoms are so
It's very pretty.
there.
Yeah, the pink, the pink cherry blossoms during the I guess spring. It's very pretty. I always, as someone that never had a backyard, I guess until now, my Bushwick backyard.
Yeah.
It's a very Bushwick backyard because there's just broken glass and stray cats.
Yep.
And my neighbor's garbage back there, but
Yep.
I do love those cats.
Oh, but to your point about Houston versus New York.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, and like surrounding yourself with people, that was actually really a key point that you were picking up on, because I do think that even though I grew up in a very major metro area, like when people think of big cities in the United States, after places like New York and LA and Chicago, people do think of places like Boston and Miami. I grew up in a place bigger than those.
Right.
But I don't think that the creative scene there, and any Houstonians, please don't kill me for this, but I don't think the creative scene there is nearly what it is here. I think that's fair to say.
Sure.
And, you know, I needed a place where it was normal to be however it is that I am. And I say it like that because it's definitely evolved over time.
Wherever
but,
this is normal.
Whatever this is, I can be here. And it's not so weird. And I'm not saying that everyone thought it was weird, but like, you know, there's definitely an element. If I was carrying my camera around in Houston versus carrying it around here, I'm not saying that people wouldn't look at me in both places, but maybe the length of the look and like what attitude comes with that look could be different, because people are more desensitized to it here. Yeah. But even things like, you know, I wouldn't go around Houston crying, but like I had some pretty rough experiences getting started here because I moved to New York in a suitcase. I didn't know anyone in the city. Like I really came with my dreams packed in my suitcase.
It's been 2 years, two and a half years?
About almost 2.5.
Okay.
Well, I guess it's been over 2.5. June will make 3 years.
Okay.
And
what prompted that? Let's talk about your move.
Yes.
And,
the move. Yeah, those were some intense times. Well, I'd always wanted to experience New York, and growing up, I always wanted to go there. My family didn't travel beyond visiting our relatives, which did get me around the country quite a bit because my family is one of those that kind of scattered. Okay. So, you know, I was fortunate to get to experience a lot of areas of the country and cool places in the country just because, like, I have a lot of relatives in LA. So, nice. I got to experience a lot. But New York is not a place that I'd ever gone. My parents didn't particularly have an interest. And so I'd never gone. High school, I raised money through a fundraiser to afford going on a trip to New York with the choir. Oh, cool. And so, yeah, it was actually really cool. We got to sing at Lincoln Center. Oh, wow. Yeah, nice. I didn't know just how big a deal that was Lincoln at the time. Center, yeah. Now I know. And now I'm like, dang it, I definitely should have like gone out for the solo. That's fine. I decided to not audition because I was like, But let's be honest, I was a little nervous. Okay. But anyway, so I came on that trip and I like fell in love. I loved it. And
how old were you for that trip?
I was 16. Okay. I was almost 17 at the time. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, this is great. I knew I wanted to come back. I convinced my aunt to take me that like a few months later. And then I got another aunt to take me with a couple of my cousins a few years later. And I just knew I wanted to be here.
That trip, was it during one of these trips where you said it was one of the first times you cried for pure joy?
Yes. You really did your homework.
I did.
I'm really impressed. Yes, I did. That was my junior year in high school, my very first trip to New York. And I was going through some challenging times at home during that period because my sister had she had a major concussion and her post-concussion syndrome was very intense. And, you know, just... It was a tough
Older
period.
Or younger?
She's 18 months younger.
Oh, well, so very close then.
Yeah, close in age. And I was honestly going through a situational depression. I had 2 teachers who were sort of kicking me while I was down. Huh. So I was sort of experiencing a contrast, I think, looking back also, that things were really, really tough during that time. Mm-hmm. And then I was on this trip in this place I'd wanted to go to my whole life. I'd always wanted to go there unexplainably. It's not like anyone in my life raved about New York. My parents had never really even been. And I just always wanted to go. And then I went and I was having an amazing time. And I was ice skating in Central Park with my friends. And I just started crying of happiness. Yeah, yeah. Everyone came up and they're like, you okay? I'm like, oh, I'm way okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but it's, you know, a lot of time has passed since then because that was like 10 years ago. Wow. And now I'm actually here. I've been living here. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
It's kind of true.
And what I've learned, though, is make it. I've really realized that's an interesting part of that phrase because I'm like, what does it mean to make it? Right. Because I have absolutely made it by a lot of people's standards. Mm-hmm. but I have not yet, and by my own in a lot of ways too, but I have not made it like, as in like my overall goals
Sure.
of what I'm seeing here,
Yeah.
you know, like in terms of like, you know, the career element that we talked about, like at the time of this recording, because hopefully things like move fast, but at the time of this recording, I have not made it career wise with my dream career.
Correct.
Like, you know, I have
understand.
the job that pays my bills, but
Right.
that's not the same, you know? So having to really evaluate what it means to make it. And like, yeah, I have a roof over my head now, and I, you know, have an income, and I've made friends, you know, like I think that is making it in some ways, because
I think a lot of times when you're in New York, surviving is making it
that,
on
yes,
some level.
Exactly. Like I've definitely made it in terms of survival, and even better than survival,
Right.
you know,
Surviving is step one, thriving is step two.
yeah. And there's got to be some sort of step between that and the next, you know, there's
Yeah.
levels.
Yeah.
There's levels to making it, basically, is what I've learned and actualized. And I'm proud of what I've done to this point, because it, you know, I feel like, is it like the opposite of my nature to choose the easy path? Because like I feel like everything that I choose is like, you know, a challenge, but I've reached some of these challenges,
Right.
and I'm just on the path to the others.
A challenge, but like a challenge that you're pursuing, you're welcoming. You said it pretty early on in your. So let me break down the timeline, I guess, a little bit more. You've been on YouTube now for over 5 years. I saw.
Yeah, I mean,
over 500 videos.
Yeah,
That's impressive.
550 or 60 something now, and I mean, my timeline as a video creator is, I never know how long to say that I've been doing this, because the first video I ever made outside of like, you know, performing in front of my mom's camcorder was like in middle school. Like I was in 7th grade, and back then doing a video project was kind of unheard of. It was sort of like the teacher said, you can write an essay, you can make a poster, you can do this, or you can make a video. Like
And
that was sort of like a new cutting edge idea.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to try that.
Right.
And that's the very first video that I ever made and put on YouTube just for the teacher to see it and grade it. I was appalled in high school when I saw how many people had viewed it. I was so embarrassed. I think it's now public again, and I crack up every time I see it now, because I'm like way over that. I'm not an insecure teenager anymore. But that was just a school project, and I liked it. And so I did 2 more school projects the next year. And then in high school, I pretty much abandoned it. And then when I was a junior and a senior in high school, I made a couple videos for scholarships that I was applying to.
Okay.
And it was just sort of like this project thing that I did on the side, but I definitely had a knack that I wasn't realizing that I had, you know, and I was like deep in, you know, iMovie editing, and I went to, of course, my family had no idea how to help me, and I went to the Apple store, and I was like, how do I do a freeze frame at the end? And I was like, I want to freeze the frame, but I need the audio to keep going, and I got someone to help me with that.
Nice.
And this was like the 2nd or 3rd video I'd ever made, and I was interested in doing things like that. So in college, when I started to see people on YouTube, like, you know, performing and putting out these fun, cool videos, especially videos from Refinery 29, if you were ever familiar with them.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I feel like they've shifted their focus over time, but they've made a lot of like video content for, you know, like, I guess you would say like millennial women, maybe Gen Z too, but they made a lot of content related to, you know, beauty and celebrities and fashion and trying different fun things with their different hosts in the video department. I was like, wait, that looks cool. People are making these videos on YouTube. I have a little bit of video experience. Maybe I can do this too. And so I just sort of picked the camera back up and started making content about like anything and all kinds of stuff. And I even you know, did a little bit of stop motion, and I was just like kind of experimenting. And that's what it was for years. And I, at the time, really wanted to work in a video department like that. So I was applying to places like Refinery 29 and Vice and Vox and these different companies that were video based, because I was like, wait, I want to do this. but I was still really exploring myself as a creator and just trying all kinds of things. I feel like I said I was lifestyle because I didn't really have a focus. I went on a trip and started making videos about my travels. But then, and I feel like from there, I never stopped making videos. And so maybe that was sort of the, 6 years ago when I got back on truly making. But as time went on, I realized that like I want to do something like more seriously. And so I knew that I wanted to do what these, quote unquote influencers do in terms of making videos and, integrating sponsorships and stuff. But I was like, well, how am I going to do it? And at the same time, I'd always wanted to live in New York. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to move to New York and I'm going to make videos about things to do in New York.
Right.
And, it was in my mind, even though I didn't officially make it really a business until a little bit later, just because I needed to get my feet underneath me. Like I needed a place to live. I pet sat for my first 3 months in New York. It was insane. But I turned it into a business.
You pet sat?
I pet sat for 3 months.
I learned recently that that's like almost an alternative to Airbnb now.
Oh, it was. Like, I literally, like, have you heard of trusted house sitters?
No.
That's sort of the concept.
Okay.
And when I was looking to go to New York in my suitcase, I was like, well, how am I going to do this? Like, financially, I was like, I can buy myself a one-way plane ticket and I can pack in a suitcase. But when I was looking at Airbnbs, it's like the cost of rent if you want to stay for a month. And I didn't have that. And I also, knew better than to sign a lease from afar. But anyways, I couldn't really prove that I could pay rent because I couldn't. Like, I did not have money to pay rent.
Yeah.
I still needed to figure that out. I thought I was going to get a job here. Like, the way I thought my plan and my path was going to go is not how it went. And ultimately, I applied to well over 100 jobs.
Wow.
I interviewed with a handful, and some of those interviews actually went really well, where I know that they just had another competitive candidate.
Yeah.
And that's why they didn't choose me. And there was one job that I did end up getting an offer, and there was some stuff about the offer that I was a little bit like, wait, this is not what you said in the interview. This is not what your paperwork said. Or this is not what you said in the interview or your job listing. And now the paperwork looks different. But it didn't even matter because at that point, the dotted line was in front of me and I couldn't sign it because I realized, and there were so many tears and this was such a dramatic moment, but I realized that I could say yes to them or I could say yes to me.
Wow.
And I could not do it all. And I had to choose, was I going to work for them or was I going to work for myself? And I decided to work for myself, and I doubled my rates at the side business I'd been doing since high school. And I decided that I was going to bootstrap my own media business.
Right.
And
Hava Media.
Hava Media. I didn't have a name for it at the time. I didn't know what that was going to look like at all. I just knew that I couldn't do it all. And if I wanted to go for that in a professional capacity and still have a roof over my head, which you can't really do one without the other, then I was going to have to say no and, basically take a leap of faith that I could double my rates and double my hours at the same time. And I did.
Okay.
And thank God, because that brought me to where I am now. And as I got more serious along this timeline, I made more and more videos. And I think that YouTube Shorts has inflated that number because of the recycling of content.
I see.
But hey, I'm going to own it because I'm going to own it. I've got over 560 videos on YouTube. 560 videos on YouTube.
I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Because I'm like, you know what? Everybody else is claiming their number. Everybody who's making shorts, their number is inflated. And you know what? It is recycled content, but you still have to know how to recycle it.
Yep. And I actually, at the first networking event that I could get us more water too.
Yeah, we're gonna do that in a minute.
What's it called? At the first networking event, I did speak to someone that actually was talking to me about that exact thing, recycling your longer term or longer form videos on YouTube into shorts. And he's like, you gotta do that. You gotta start doing that. And I still haven't, but that's. Oh,
I'm surprised because you do it. You already kind of do it on Instagram.
So that's the thing. I cut, and I'm so bad at. I'm good at certain things, but bad at others. So I'm good at, I guess, keeping this podcast recorded every week, and I'm okay at getting content out. I want to be at the point where I could almost do a clip a day, but
it's tough. That's a lot of work.
It is.
It's so much more ambitious than people realize. When people
100%.
say it, like, I mean, I'm sort of at a very opposite place than you, which we can get into later, but like that is an ambitious goal. But you can totally do it. I mean, looking at your work ethic, your drive, and the way you build out this content and how you do it, like if anyone can do it, you do.
I appreciate that.
You have, and you also have enough to work with.
Yeah.
That you can filter through. Like there's certain clips that have already happened that we've talked about that would work great, and other ones that it's like
I have the content, it's there. I just have to cut it. What I have to discipline myself with now is to attack my content creating in my shorter form content creating as vigorously as I'm attacking my podcast creating, where I have to really probably sit down for hours on end in a day to create like bulk content for the week or two or whatever.
Bulking is the name of the game.
Yeah.
Like when I was putting out content every single day or YouTube videos once or twice a week, I'm telling you, bulking is the way to do it. Whether, no matter, like, and it's sort of like the strategy when you want to be a content machine, which is what I've sort of come to terms with, like, how much do I want to be that or not be that? Because I've done prolonged periods of being that, and it is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And the one thing I would sort of a word of caution, because, like, I think you can totally do this, and it could, like, completely propel your success. Just make sure that you're checking in with yourself, because burnout is for real. And even recycling content, like, unpopular opinion, I don't like TikTok. Okay. I'm just going to say it because there's no one here to like shoot me about it, but I don't like TikTok. I don't have on it. It depends what you mean by on it. I have an account. There are some videos there because I gave it a shot.
Got it.
I gave it a shot as a consumer. I gave it a shot as a creator. I'm really not a fan. It's a personal opinion. I have nothing against other people being on it.
What is it about it that you shy away from?
All right. So again, I'm putting my controversial opinions out there. I honestly think a lot of it's junk.
Okay.
And I don't think that the loyalty is there.
Oh, okay.
And saying it's junk is the thing that probably people are going to get a little, like, they're going to feel the heat rising inside of them about. And I don't mean that to say that everyone's content is junk, but I do think, like, sort of that endless scroll that you can really do on any platform. Even Facebook puts the little things in front of you. Like, you see so much. Again, I'm speaking from my own experience, but I see so much random crap. Like, where it's like, it's like eating potato chips for your brain, you know, as opposed to, I know that I'm probably not the typical consumer on Instagram or YouTube, partly because I'm such a heavy creator, and I do actually get bored of social media pretty quickly as a consumer, because I have this urge to create, even if it's not, even if I'm in a moment where I'm consuming content and I'm not instantly going to go make something, but it's like, I need to get out of here because I need to go do XYZ. I'm such a doer. But on TikTok, it's like eating potato chips versus being like, I want to see this person's content, this person's content. I'm seeking it out and I'm going for what I want, which I think when I approach something like YouTube, I'm not going to YouTube just to browse. I'm going because either I want to learn something, I want to see someone's content. And I treat Instagram similarly, generally speaking. I think that's more unusual probably, because the mindless scroll like just kind of drives me crazy. Okay. Like I get bored very fast. I will scroll a little bit, but I'll even literally go to the search bar and search people that I want to see.
Interesting.
Like I will literally search Serena Kerrigan.
Okay.
She is a role model for me. I love what she's doing, and I want to see what she's making. I want to see the new post, If Instagram's not going to put in my feed, I want to make sure I see it. So things like that. And then as a creator on TikTok, that loyalty piece, it's just not there. It's not the same. And I don't have all the metrics right now to back myself up, even though there are plenty of professionals who will concede to that TikTok doesn't have that same loyalty. And as a side note, for what it's worth, one thing about Instagram and YouTube that I think is cool, and I'm just going to sort of throw out there, is the fact that over the past 10, 12 years, however long, we have seen a lot of social platforms cycle through. and some of them have risen and died. You know, like Vine is not there anymore. I mean, I know we have TikTok now, but we've seen a lot, you know, and then some may still be in existence, but who's like talking about them? Like, I know Snapchat is still around, but like, I can't tell you the last time I've done a Snapchat. Yeah. I don't think it's even on my phone.
Remember when they were trying to make Clubhouse a thing?
That's the next one I was going to mention. I'm like, Clubhouse, if it still exists, like, okay, but like nobody's talking about it. And so one thing about Instagram and YouTube is they have remained strong and competitive throughout all these years. Right. Instagram is also sort of the catch-all. The only competitive platform that Instagram hasn't found a way to incorporate that feature is YouTube. And they tried. IGTV was their version of trying to be YouTube. It just didn't really work.
Does that still exist?
No, they took it away like a couple of years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
No, they don't allow that anymore. I mean, you can just upload a video.
Right.
And it can be long, but it's not IGTV.
Got it.
Yeah, so those just are really steady, and I find even though people have told me over and over, like, oh, well, you just like recycle it. I'm like, yeah, but no, because you know what? If I have to add a different ending to each of them, saying subscribe, because that goes on YouTube Short. Right. Follow.
Correct.
On Instagram. Believe it or not, especially to all the non-video creators out there, that filled up. And it may be like, oh, but you're just doing a quick straight. Yes, but if you're talking about a daily video, that time really does build up because you have to create a duplicate project.
Right.
You've got to retype it. And I know that sounds small, but you've got to create the duplicate, and then you've got to do that for all these projects.
I feel your pain because at the end of a lot of my videos, I used to put link in bio for my Instagram reels, but you can't do that on TikTok. So that ending doesn't make sense on TikTok, you know, or on the YouTube Short, you know. So that's 3 different templates almost you'd have to come out with. So I get it. I know what you mean.
So I've committed to Instagram and YouTube. YouTube because I am such a video creator and producer, and I have ambitions as an art director. Okay. And that is really the best place for long form content when you don't have fancy connections and a team to get you in a place like, you know, Hulu, Netflix, like where, you know, that also comes with a whole lot of other, you know, stuff to consider. And then Instagram is tried and true. So these, you know, it has all the other things, the stills, the short form, and these 2 platforms, even though they are probably known as the most difficult to grow on, although, you know, everyone is like, TikTok, best place to grow. You know, I didn't see that kind of return on the investment of my time and energy. Too. I didn't see that personally because I think that was really a thing of the beginning, kind of like Southwest Airlines. Right. If you're calling Southwest Airlines a cheap airline, they are not cheap anymore.
Are they not?
No, they're competitive. I mean, you can get good deals. Do not get me wrong. I have 7 flights booked with Southwest right now.
Did you just sign a sponsorship? Did Hava Media sign a sponsorship deal with Southwest
Airlines? Southwest Airlines. Honestly, though, I fly Southwest like so much now because they do, for the places I've been flying recently and the dates and when I'm booking them, it has been my sweet spot. It has been the cheapest. But I wouldn't call Southwest the cheap airline that they once were. That's outdated.
Isn't it Spirit now? Isn't it Spirit
Airlines? Oh, yeah. Spirit and Frontier are your budget airlines, but those are like, you know.
I'm going to grab us some water. Yeah. I'll be right back.
And by the way, I'm gonna push something off. I'm like, this is really fun. So I've got more than 15 minutes.
Okay.
We can get going.
I will let you. I guess be the boss of them. It's funny.
I know you have a certain limit anyway on how long you need the podcast to be.
Oh yeah, we're good on that. Don't worry about that. Okay. The more guests that I have on the show, I learn. Don't worry, that happens once every show.
I'm like twisting around.
I try to not play footsie with my guests too, but sometimes with this setup.
As this is the first time that I've like done the crossover like that.
I realize like the more guests that I have on to just be okay with bathroom breaks, because like one of the earlier guests, I was like, no, I'm not going to the bathroom, and as I was editing the video, I see my eyes like bulging and get bloodshot and watery from how hard I was crossing my legs to not pee. And I was like, I look like I'm high. And like, look, I'm an avid pot smoker, but that was a long interview and I was not smoking during the interview at all. Right. I went from looking perfectly fine to suddenly I was like this. soul. Tell me about your
like
play.
Intensity.
Yeah, and I was like, it looks like I'm about to cry. Like the blood all came to my eyes. So I was like,
It's easier to just clip it out.
Yeah, just go to the bathroom, be comfortable, stop thinking about your bladder for the last.
And
10,
simple
minutes.
blade skimmer cuts are pretty simple.
Yeah,
anyway.
once I realized that it was a lot easier to just edit out a bathroom break as opposed to rupturing my bladder, I realized that's the route to go next time. Will.
Yeah. So what kind of ambitions do you see with this podcast? You know, like, because it sounds like it has evolved over time where it started.
It definitely did.
So diary, now we're this kind of conversation.
I'm a little embarrassed by like my first 2 or 3 episodes because I always knew. I didn't always know.
Only the first 2 or 3 though. Hey, that's pretty good.
Yeah, right.
I'm embarrassed by like the first 2 or 3 years of my content.
I guess, yeah. I guess I'm lucky in the sense that I feel like I found my I guess what I wanted this podcast to be pretty early on. However, it was purely accidental and definitely organic. I was about to say, I've always known I wanted to do a podcast, but that's bullshit because podcasts haven't even existed for like when I was a kid.
It's sort of like an exaggeration that just for a long time.
But like you literally said anything that gets me on stage at some point in one of your videos. So I am a glutton for attention. I am not an introvert by any means, which is funny because we met at an event that was sponsored by an introverted podcast.
Yeah, definitely no introverts in this room.
Not at all. Yeah, and it's funny because they asked me to be on the show, and I was like, as long as you know I'm not an introvert, like they're like that. Do we think that it'll be fun or whatever? I felt like I always wanted to be like some type of host growing up, you know?
Yeah.
And back in my day, it was like TV channels like MTV or something where I always thought like that's like one of the coolest things I've ever seen is someone that's just job is to talk and have people listen. So if there's anything that I felt like I was always good at things that I couldn't monetize. Like, all right, I'm really good at talking. Who gives a damn? Go balance this spreadsheet instead, you know? Like, so once I started realizing that podcasting was a thing, and I went back to school for music production, but I started realizing that I was learning all the necessary tools for podcasting as well. Yeah. Like all this gear, the program I'm using right now, I learned all of this.
Using GarageBand?
No, I'm using Pro Tools. So Pro Tools is like the industry standard.
Nice.
Like, so yeah, GarageBand, that's kid stuff.
Yeah,
right? You know?
That's like the iMovie. Like I started on iMovie because that's where everybody starts. But
I'm still using iMovie only because I'm a little. It is a little bit easier, but I know that I have to evolve into something more. I think
everything that I've heard so far, for now, you don't
really well,
unless there's things we haven't talked about, because obviously, like, the amount that you've given this thought is like way more than we can capture in this conversation.
I'm also, I guess, like I'm talking to like yesterday I was talking to my buddy Manny, who's going to be on a future episode. He's a comedian, but also he pays the bills by doing cinematography. And so he does a lot of like editing, like after the fact. So he was like, "Oh yeah, if you use this program and that program," and we're getting into like the minutia, and like that's. You will like reach your limit with iMovie capabilities quickly, right? But if all you're doing is cutting out a bathroom break, little simple cuts, like. Why invest? So far, well, I already have it. Like I paid for it already, so I have Final Cut Pro. So it's not. I love Final Cut. So that's what I want to start using. Not Adobe. Exactly. Exactly. So I have it and I don't use it. Like I feel like that's a little bit of a waste. Yeah. And I just feel I'm learning from a couple of people that although iMovie is working for me, I might actually have an easier time and have to put less time into my editing if I did it on Final Cut Pro. But I could see that because I feel that way at this point for myself. Yeah. Although I also work with a little team at this point because I needed my life back. So that was when we first had a conversation when we first met. We actually started talking about like gear and stuff, like because all of your what you can tell right away from your page, your videos is that I told you have a very polished look. God, and that's I'm so grateful to hear that because I do not look at myself and think that, except that I did, to the point earlier that we're talking about, like these conversations that motivated me.
I shaped up my website. My website I'm actually quite proud of now.
Okay.
It's like the 6th website I've made. Like my website making doesn't come naturally to me, but I think it looks
What
nice
is the way? And don't worry, we will link everything in the show notes.
I mean,
and
it's
all
just
that stuff,
Hava.media.
That's
like,
the website?
That is literally.
No .com?
No, it's .media.
You can do that.
Yes,
Oh,
you can.
Wow.
Yes, you can, especially if the .com is
media.
taken.
Why did you want havamedia.com?
I mean, I started just looking for like
Hava.com.
Hava.com.
Yeah,
like,
that makes sense.
Because I'm like, my name is unique. But, you know.
Hava.com was taken, though.
Yeah, it was taken.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? Hava.media? That's the name of the business. So it's a personal
What
website.
came from,
you know?
you chose the website name after you had already been Hava Media
No,
on
I
YouTube,
just I officially filed as an LLC in May.
Oh, wow, cool.
Or May 2022.
Okay.
So it was like in June that I got the website handle.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, because that was like when I was like, okay, this is now a business. You know,
Mm-hmm.
this is not just me making videos.
Right. Oh,
yeah.
talking about sidebars and losing track.
Oh yeah.
Let me finish.
We can circle.
Yeah, I do remember. I'm somehow, even though I'm very aloof and all over the place, throughout this podcast, I've learned that I'm actually not bad at, like, even though I will sidebar 10
Getting back
times,
on
I
track.
somehow get it.
Yeah. Me too.
So
Sometimes takes a
you
while.
asked me, I told you that I'm a little embarrassed by like my first 2 or 3
Right.
episodes.
I'm still impressed that it's just the first few.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. I remember before I knew what the podcast was going to be about, and all I knew was that I was going to start it soon. The way I started, I've told the story a bunch of times on this podcast.
Yeah.
The way I've started podcasting in general was I've ran this very like guy thing, but I've ran the same fantasy football league for 15 years.
Whoa.
With
wow.
pretty much the same core group of people. So like that's pretty.
That's impressive.
It's kept our friendship like together for that long. I've known these guys since high school, basically.
Yeah.
So I told my friends, as the commissioner of this league, I'm going to start a podcast about just our league. So I literally made a podcast for 12 people, 11 if you don't include myself.
Yeah.
And I did that for the sole purpose of learning how to podcast, practicing how to podcast, and using my own group of dumbass friends as the test subjects.
Yeah.
And then little by little, what I started seeing was that I told you there's 12 people in the league. I'm the 12th. So I expected 11 to 12 downloads per episode. And I started seeing 50, 60. And I'm like, what? Why do other people care about our league? And it's more about, they cared about me talking, and I would have my league mates on the show.
Yeah.
And we'd talk about football for like a half hour, and then we would just talk about whatever for like 2 hours, and I was connecting with people. So I was like, all right, I know that when I start my real podcast, I want it to be something like that. But I told you that I didn't really start having guests until this year.
Right.
So I wanted to just get a year of the podcast under my belt where I felt good. I felt good about it. I felt like I had a flow, and then I eventually would have guests on. But then before I ever started it, I had this thing in my head where I was terrified of, I don't really go around announcing that I have a podcast. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see it because it's like, I throw it up in your face, essentially. Right. But I don't go around saying, hey, I'm Will Bryant, I have a podcast. You know, like that's fucking cringy to me, you know?
Great intro.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. Because it's self-promotion can feel...
It feels weird.
It can feel weird, but I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, I'm supposed to be my number one advocate.
I also think that I have this weird... my resume is just a bunch of like red flags for people. Like I am a bartender, red flag. That is a DJ, red flag. That is a comedian, red flag. That is a podcast host, red flag. Like if your friend met me and was like, I kind of like this guy. What does he do? He's a bartender / DJ / podcast host / comedian. Your friend would be like, girl, run away. None of that sounds stable at all. No. So I don't want to meet people and be like, this is me. They're going to be like, wow, this is the most fuckboy guy I've met in like the past like month or whatever. So I try to...
definitely brave.
I try to ingratiate myself to people slowly. But I was terrified of the moment someone would find out or learn of my podcast. I was terrified of the question, what's it about? Mm-hmm. And I thought that early on I had to... You kind of touched on something like earlier on, way in the beginning of the episode. Like it's a marketing term. Like if you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one.
Right.
So I was like, my podcast has to be about something specific, you know?
And I thought that I wanted to talk about, like, you see, like, I have action figures, I have toys all over the place. Like, I recently, in the past, like, just 2 or 3 years, I'd say 3 years, I got into, like, nerd culture and comic book culture. I wasn't really that into it growing up. And my first couple of episodes are about stuff like that. Like, oh, I just saw the new Marvel movie.
Right.
And I quickly just started talking about me more and more and more. And I just said, you know what, like, screw this fine-tuned subject matter, and let me just market to everybody or just make my show more about me and less about one thing. And I found that footing pretty early on in the podcast, which I guess is lucky for me now that you mention it.
Yeah.
And you asked, like, what's the... Like,
I've been on a journey with that, so the fact that you found it early is pretty cool.
I never really realized how, I guess, lucky of... Like, I could have wasted a year fucking talking about Marvel, so thank God I found it out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
The audience told me, you know, blatantly via feedback, but also the numbers were there, too. The moment I started talking about more real shit, that's when stuff started, like, moving along for me a little bit. You asked me, like, what's the, like, I guess, ultimate goal with the podcast? And it's funny, I think I did it backwards, where there's like a trope right now. Every comedian has a podcast. Well, I had a podcast and then became a comedian, you know? Like,
yeah.
So I did it almost backwards. So, and I just see, every aspect of my life I want to feed into every other. So whether my DJing hits first, my comedy hits first, my podcast hits first, whatever it may be, I don't see any reason why one can't influence the other. And you know, I truly see, like,
integration
down the road, years from now, I see myself doing, like, a live podcast into an hour of stand-up comedy, and then I will finish off the night as a DJ for a party. You know, like,
that's such a cool idea.
One ticket, one event for everything, you know? Like, I see that in my future, you know? Like,
that's so cool.
And it's just a way of, like, I don't want to,
it's like,
limit myself
down.
Laugh,
dance.
Yeah, pretty
like,
much.
All
yeah,
one night.
Exactly,
like,
yeah.
Who doesn't want to, like, think, laugh, and dance,
you
know? And the comedy is such a great transition, because if you're talking about some real stuff, comedy kind of lightens the mood.
Exactly.
Kind of transitions you into that party mode.
Yeah, and then you're even in a better mood for when the party starts, you know? Like, so, yeah, I whenever I get into something, I always think bigger picture. And I'm realizing that I enjoy the organizing part. Like I love DJing, but part of me actually, I've thrown a couple of parties or little mini festivals where I hire like 6 or 7 DJs and throw a festival or throw a party for like 12 hours straight.
Wow.
And that, like, I loved that aspect of it too. So, like, you know, I'm already thinking about, like, a podcasting network of some case. Like, hey, I can't do that Marvel or DC podcast, but maybe I can set someone else up for that and have it under my podcast network or whatever. And then suddenly now, you know, I'm growing that as well. And I like thinking, whenever you like something, there's something probably bigger than that you might be able to accomplish as well, is what I'm seeing.
That's something that I recently kind of went through and discovered, because, you know, I sort of mentioned how at first it was just, you know, in my creator journey, it was just, I was making videos and I didn't know what I wanted to make anything about. It was really just a hobby. It was honestly a little bit less about the about and more about the process of the making, like the filming and the editing and putting it out there and learning how to do it, and you know, coming up with what's the next thing I want to make something about, like, just based on whatever my interest is at that particular time. And then, you know, I got more serious and I said, okay, I want this to be a business, so I'm going to make content about things to do in New York because I'm infatuated with the city. I'm moving here. This is what I'm going to do. And honestly, that did not take off the way I thought it would, hoped it would.
Interesting.
And I recently pivoted.
Yeah.
And I'm actually still, I would say, almost in the middle of the pivot. And, you know, pivot not just because that after 2 years of doing that didn't turn, and sort of like, you know, the Einstein quote of, like, you know, if you keep doing the same thing and expect different results,
right,
you're delusional or whatever.
Yeah.
And, you know, I know there's also the element of, like, giving it time, but at the same time, as I was like, things are just really not happening for me and I need to do something different. I was sort of feeling like making these videos was just becoming a slog. Like, it was like I'm coming up with more things to do just because I need to make more videos.
Can I say I've never heard the word slog before? I love that.
Oh, really?
I feel like I know exactly what it means, but
yes,
I've never...
the word sounds like what it is.
Yeah,
like,
I know,
it's
right?
kind of a slog, you know? But it was just like, I was just making to make, and don't get me wrong, I still like exploring the city. I love exploring the city, and it's not like I didn't enjoy the experiences I was making. Like, an example of a video where I was exhausted, you know, and I didn't really feel it fully of the inspiration is my video about Ridgewood, Queens, which I enjoyed those experiences.
Too, really.
Like, I liked it, and I'm not sure if you watch that video, if you would be able to tell that I was like not super inspired anymore.
Interesting.
I hope you can't, but
I did not get that, no.
Because I mean, growing up, I did do theater, so hopefully I can put on a good front.
Yeah.
But I wasn't inspired, and my inspiration was
it
just
because
sort
you
of
were like
out.
burnt out at that point? Did you hate Ridgewood that much?
Actually, I
By
think
the way,
Ridgewood
is
underrated.
a block away.
I know, yeah, because Time Out New York said that, you know, is the coolest neighborhood in the world. I'm like, I'm not sure about that, but
I live
it was
a block
cool.
away. I don't even think I agree with that.
I was saying, I don't think it's the coolest neighborhood in the world, but it was neat. It's got some
Ruby's
cool
Bakery though, like I swear by that.
Yeah, wow,
bakery.
that was
I swear
really
by
good.
that, yeah. I spend
yeah.
way too much money every time I'm in there.
I mean, if it's been around for 90 years, then they're doing something right, because that means they've remained through a lot of hard times.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, and at the same time as I was kind of feeling like over it, there was something else going on in my personal life, and I was just ravenously consuming literally books, not just articles, about fashion and style, and I guess you could say beauty a little bit, although not as much. But I was like, what is going on here? I mean, we're talking like I ate 5 books in like a month. Like just I was suddenly just reading all this. I'm like, what is going on here? And I just sort of took a step back, like I kind of stepped off of the hamster wheel, sort of to big picture, like reflect and introspect and be like, what's going on, you know? And I realized, I'm like, well, I'm a very expressive person. Like, since I was itty bitty and my mom would have the camera or the video camera, like always expressive performing for it. Like, what would I do with my friends? Would we play house? Sure. But what did I really love doing? When we would make shows and plays and then force our parents to watch.
Got it.
And, you know, I asked my parents to do theater outside of school, and I did singing and growing up. Like, that's just like, that was always part of me, as I've just always been a performer. And in college, I found it through putting myself on camera as I was becoming a video creator. And I was like, well, I'm a very expressive person. Even right now, look at this. I'm a very expressive person. And I also get really excited when other people tell me about something creative that they're doing. Like, I'm just like, oh my God, this is so cool. Like, the fact that you DJ and you're a comedian and you do a podcast, like, you're just like, creativity is bubbling over. Like, and I realized, I'm like, well, you know, fashion and style is just sort of a way that I express myself. Right. And I don't want to suddenly be a fashion or style creator, because the truth is, I will get bored if that's all I make content about.
Right.
And I was like, what is the deeper message here? And I realized, I'm like, I want to inspire other people to express themselves. Be expressive, whatever that is for you. And it doesn't have to look like it is for me. Again, like there's the introvert company that we met, and that's so great. And they are expressing who they are, you know, just because I'm an extrovert and I'm going to be like, hi, I'm Hava, and I will get on stage and I will sing for you, and, you know, whatever, does not mean that I think other people need to be like me. It's tapping into what it is for you. Like, my grandmother injured her shoulder, and she, you know, she's normally playing like pickleball and tennis and golf. Well, while she was recovering for several months, she can't do all that. So she picked up a very old hobby of hers, of knitting.
Okay.
You know, I'm not going to say that I can't be crafty, but I don't like to be crafty. And like doing things like friendship bracelets and knitting and crochet, just like, oh gosh, that just drives me crazy. I can't. But I am so excited that she found something creative to tap into, because she's one of these people who, you know, super like logical math major in college, accounting, finance person, like, and that's great. And that is a way that she expressed who she is throughout her career. And everyone has some sort of creativity in them. And expressing yourself doesn't even have to be creative, you know? Like, I'm developing a series, which I sort of mentioned earlier, and this is where the comedy show comes in.
Yeah.
That is all about, so it's all about trying things out, because the fact is, if you're going to express yourself, you can play an active role in shaping your identity. But a lot of times we need to experiment and try things out to see what we want to really be. Is it just idealistic, like it seems cool? Because a lot of people think it's cool to be a video creator, and then they get into it and they realize that the bulk of what goes on as a video creator is not what you see,
Right.
and they realize they don't want to do that. But you know what? Props to them for actually picking up a camera, because sometimes you need to try it out. So the concept of this series is using myself as the dummy, the consistent, because I'm building myself as this, you know, icon, role model, friend, personality that, you know, my audience, you know, becomes attached to, and that I get to make an impact. But using myself throughout the episodes to try out different forms of personal expression and bring in different people to, you know, whether that's an interview or a sample or trying out different jobs, you know, throwing myself into it, and then lacing it with messages, you know, and not like preachy, because I never want to be preachy. It's just not, it's not me. But, you know, there are some things that I'm going to try, and in the end, I'm not going to want to do them again. And that's okay.
Yeah.
You can try stuff and you can throw yourself into it and then decide, no, this isn't for me. Or other things that it's like, wow, I want to take this a step further. Or, you know, whatever. And so the first episode that, well, I've got a couple in the works, but I think the comedy one will be the first to finish, that I'm developing.
So
is
you took a comedy class, right?
I
didn't.
didn't.
Oh.
So this one is, you know, I essentially started off, I said, okay, so this is about becoming, you know, funnier and, you know, becoming a comedian, you know, trying this out. I'm not saying that I'm going to become a comedian.
Yeah.
Unless I get on stage and suddenly fall in love, which so far I'm pretty far into the process to not be in love, because I haven't finished writing it yet, but I'm almost there. I'm not in love, although I think that, you know, maybe I have mediocre potential. We'll see what happens when I get on stage. Even if I bomb, that will still be going in the video, because I think that's important.
100%.
But, and obviously I'm enough self-assured that, like, it's okay. I can bomb it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be good at everything, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, starting by going to a couple comedy shows and writing down some observations in the note section of my phone. And so I did that. And then, you know, going, like, meeting up with a friend at the tavern community.
In my head, the comedian that's on stage is looking at you and going, this bastard's stealing my jokes.
Like, she thinks she's funny. That's the real funny part of it. But I don't know if you met one of the people at Tavern, Robin. She's she's part of Kugels and Comedians.
Kugels and Comedians.
So we got together and, you know, sort of sat down, and she kind of gave me a lot of food for thought, teaching me about, like, you know, when it comes to writing, things to think about. And then I went to the comedy co-working event to meet the local community, and, you know, met a few comedians who told a joke, and, you know, that I can play in. And I also wrote some stuff there that came to my mind.
Oh, cool.
And then I'm going to polish that up, go to an open mic, put myself on stage, have it filmed or record it somehow, and then, you know, end of the story, you know, whatever. So it builds this whole story. This is sort of a long way of explaining, you know, a sample episode of how this looks and trying something out. And at the end of that one, probably just talking about what are my takeaways, since I don't see myself being a comedian.
Right.
But for the person watching, maybe they want to try it out, or maybe they don't. And it's just like, okay, well, if she can throw herself up on stage to do comedy, I think I can go to Michael's and buy some watercolors, you know, like
Yes.
whatever it is for them. And I mean, at a minimum, just entertaining, because I like to entertain. And I think I know historically I haven't seen the value in that coming from myself. Like, that other people can be entertainers, and that's great, but I didn't see that as being enough, because I always saw that, like, you need to be giving, like, information or educating someone.
Got it.
And so I would also do a lot of research for some of my New York City videos, so that I would be delivering that too, even though I think I've already communicated well, my heart and soul. I'm an entertainer. And learning that, like, you know what, it's okay to deliver value through entertainment, and knowing my core message to inspire people to tap into more of who they are. And that that is okay and that is valuable. And maybe I have been, holding back a little bit because I've been trying to, compensate with other forms of value. So that's something that I'm working on. And, what we were talking about with like sort of that, like putting more content out there, I've had to really come to terms with, I don't really want to be a content machine anymore. Okay. And I don't really want to put a video out on YouTube every single week unless that's what it happens to be, because I'm like, I sort of had to sit down. I went to an event where the speaker was like, follow your inspiration. And I kind of took that to heart. And I was like, am I making videos because I'm inspired or because I need to get another video out?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I'm not inspired to make the videos that will help me just get another one out. I don't really want to do that. Talking about long form YouTube right now, because I recently posted a video related to ear piercing, and it was the first video.
It did well.
Did you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the first.
That was the first video of yours that I saw at all.
Yay! Because that's the first video of this new focus, and I mean that video is special to me for multiple reasons as a professional, namely the fact that is the first video where I've really had a chance to shine as a director. Is my on-camera presence in that video good? Yeah, it's fine. I don't feel like it blows me away, but that's not why I'm the most proud of it. I'm the most proud of it because everything you see with the cutaways and different shots, all of that was planned. And I had a friend who came and helped me doing the video because I filmed this in Houston, where I'm from.
Oh, okay.
Because I wanted my mom and my sister there.
Oh, I do remember that,
yeah. Yeah, so that, really allowed me to be not on the camera and being able to design the video and put something like this together with kind of a reality TV feel, even though it's very positive. And I did get that feel very from it, storyline, and I loved it. And I'm so proud of all the videos, all the 560 videos. That is the video I'm the most proud of to date.
Really? Oh.
Yes.
So what do you think is, I guess, creatively your shift? What are you more focused on now that I guess you weren't on before? It seems like the directing is part of it, or you have a clear idea of what you want these videos to be.
Yes, and that's why I don't want to be a content machine anymore, and I want to design these videos and make them and put them out there when they're ready. And so sort of behind the scenes as the director, it's like, okay, well, these videos are also taking much longer to create because with the New York stuff, I would just plan a video, I'd go out, I'd shoot it, and then I'd edit it. Like, it was done. Versus now, coordinating that comedy thing I just described involves so many different people and events and me doing stuff, so it takes much longer to collect the footage and coordinating with people. And so these videos naturally have a longer timeline, and I'm definitely grappling with the patience side of me to put it together the way I want it to go.
Yeah, because you were talking to me about this exact project when we first met about a month ago.
Yeah. So, and that one, there's been like, a little pause in like my personal life, just because like I went to Texas for my sister's bachelorette weekend. So nice. Naturally I wasn't working on anything while I was on that weekend trip, and just balancing other stuff. It's not like I'm necessarily working on a project every single day. If I was able, and I'm not even able to, for the fact that like, okay, certain events are 2 weeks apart, and I think that in the end, this may be one of the longer ones that it takes to put together, but nonetheless,
and it may also be one of the most fulfilling ones you put together too.
I hope so, because I think it has a lot of potential, and I'm pretty excited about it, but I just realized that, I want to put more in, and I want to be, really giving each project what it needs to feel that same sense of pride that I felt around the piercing video. And they won't necessarily all feel that way, but that's the energy I want to bring to it.
Right.
Because that piercing video didn't come together in a day. Okay. Like, from the time that I conceptualized it to storyboarded it to, figured out what am I going to do about video.
You're storyboarding these videos.
I am now storyboarding too. Yeah. Yes. I really mean it when I said that was seriously all planned out. I had a shot list. I had a storyboard. Like, that video was like truly
that's great.
Like, I was playing the role of director. Like, and I love that. And, my dream involves me being both the performer and on camera and also directing. So it's important that I give myself these opportunities to direct, even if it means that there aren't as many videos. But there is something to putting more content out there, and not just, quality over quantity is important. And I'm going to be honest, quantity does matter.
It does.
And so, and I definitely, I understand, the whole thing with like the highest batting averages in baseball also are people who had the most at-bats. Something like that.
That doesn't sound right at all.
So I'm like, well,
fucking Astros fan over here.
Most at-bats,
You can get more hits if you have more at-bats.
Right.
Your average may go down.
Let's say, but the idea being like, I do need more at-bats, you know, and that's where I was like a content machine and putting myself out there so much. And so I was like, okay, how am I still going to balance that? Mm-hmm. And that's when I said, well, I do want to put more out on Instagram. And I really, I was frustrated for a while because I couldn't think of like, well, what am I going to put on Instagram? What's that going to look like? And mm-hmm. I recently came up with some ideas that I'm going to use to get me started, and then see where the inspiration takes me. Because sometimes you do just have to get started. Sure. And then see where you go.
Oh, yeah.
And so, because this is basically a rebrand, this whole thing. Right. And so I'm like, Instagram, the social content, and sure, YouTube Shorts for whatever it's easy to repurpose. Like, yeah, that's where I'm going to generate more output. Because the other thing is YouTube content stays alive much longer than Instagram.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a video, it's slowing down now, that I posted towards the end of December. And for about 2 months, it has still been circulating. And I'm like, wow.
Nice.
Versus videos that I have from years ago that are still making their rounds on YouTube. And I'm impressed by like 2 months, And so I'm like, I love making polished content. I really do. Because I consider myself a professional, mm-hmm. and I want to put out the quality that reflects my ability. And I understand that, on Instagram, it's a little more casual. Instagram, I can get away with not putting in the time that I need to make, the time and the effort. Not saying that I won't work hard. I'm not wired to do anything but work hard. But like I can get away with stuff that doesn't take that much because it doesn't have the shelf life.
Well, I think you're also doing a really good job right now with Instagram utilizing stories in its like proper way as more as like a.
That's something I'm working on.
Like it's almost like another version of a vlog where it's like the behind the scenes of the vlog. This is like
what I'm working on.
Yeah.
You're noticing something like this is real time,
right.
Like working on it, because I've always come from the perspective of like, or not, when I say always, I'm exaggerating a little bit.
Sidebar, is your elevator working?
Yes.
Jesus, how many floors?
17. I live on the 17th floor.
And your elevator was broken.
Yes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the power went out a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
That was terrible. But quite a workout, and it definitely let me know that if I want to do the Empire run, I need to start training.
That's a hell of a.
Definitely need to work on that.
Yeah.
But
for people that don't know, there's literally a race in New York.
Yes.
That you don't run distance, you run up the stairs of the Empire State Building. That's the race.
86 floors.
Something like that.
Yeah. So I'm like 17. That should be the warm up. So.
I've heard that it's like chaos too, because like there's some people that take it really seriously and they're gonna be in there like fucking elbowing you and like.
Yeah, and it's not like literally the first one to the top, but like people want to like get up there because it's like. Everybody has, their time on their bib,
exactly,
but like they still need to like get through, which I'm like, I just want to do it.
Yeah,
like I don't really care about a time.
Oh yeah, me neither.
I've already got a couple people who might do it with me too.
Wow.
Yeah, like my sister and her fiance, and so I might have myself a little group for that. But
do you think that's something you would document for YouTube?
Those kinds of things. That's where this rebrand has actually, I think, and same thing with New York. Just this is giving me more separation between my personal life and my professional world, and I like it. And I did have a little bit of a separation with New York content, but not exactly, because when my parents came to visit, I was like filming so many different things because I was like, I can use this for shorts, like I'll edit this later, versus not having the camera out so much, with my parents, because I like making content, but like not all the time. Right, I actually like to put my phone away.
Be in
like
the moment a little bit more.
Yeah, exactly. And so this creates more separation and more defined. Does this have to do with does this have to do with, expression? Is this something that would fit on my Instagram? Because otherwise I'm designing a film around it. And do I want to do that?
Yeah.
And that's a lot of work, and that's a larger commitment. And it's like, no. So then at that point, if it's about documenting it and it's a vlog, that's what it is. It's a vlog. But the interesting thing is like the fact that you came to the podcast with confidence about, making it about your own experiences. And I've actually experienced the opposite inside, where I've been like, well, who cares about me? And I don't mean that from like a self-deprecating way at all. Like, I mean more of, why is someone going to watch my personal life? Like, who cares? Like, I don't want to watch random people's lives and vlogs. Like, are there some people who have caught my attention and I like seeing their stuff? Yeah, but that's a very select few. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I just felt like, what value am I really contributing? And so that's where I was like, I need a focus. So I was sort of approaching it from the opposite.
Yeah, it's interesting.
And I now sort of kind of getting closer to closing that circle. I made content about New York for a couple of years because I also thought like, oh, well, great. Like, people will find me because of New York.
Right.
And if later people want to see more behind the scenes of my own life, okay, I'm open to sharing it. If things were taking off and people are like asking for personal vlogs, okay, sure. Yeah, I would document the race, and maybe I would anyway, just because I want it as a memory. But, that's different than trying to get discovered from my own life.
Right.
And so it's like, well, what is that? But then now with this whole self-expression thing, it's like, well, but I am an expressive person and I have a personality. And I'm like, and is that entertaining? And is being myself, sort of serving as that role model now part of the mission?
Right.
Where it's sort of like, it's not me taking you to the grocery store with me, but actually finding value in using myself and being myself, mm-hmm. and recognizing that actually, yeah. I mean, someone recently said to me, I wish I could remember who it was, because it kind of took me aback a little bit in my mind. They were like, well, you see, like, you're an interesting person. I was just like,
must be nice.
like sort of to say that like people want to listen to you, people want to watch you, because you're an interesting person.
Yeah.
But they were saying that, I think, almost as if like it was the obvious, when in my own inside of me, that's not how the dialogue has gone.
Right.
Despite the confidence I exude, because I am confident in myself. I have confidence, but I also think that sometimes there's a clash between confidence and humility.
Yeah.
And like, where does one end and the other begin? Because
mm-hmm.
I have those dual forces inside of me.
There's a saying, I'm gonna butcher it, but it's something along the lines of like, confidence is the fuel for the smart, but the liquor for the fool, or something along those lines.
I've never heard that.
I'm stealing that from The Office.
Okay.
But a very smart character said something along those lines, and I remember that was the exact reaction of every other character in that scene. They were like, "Huh, that's actually
the fuel for the smart and the liquor for something like that."
The first part I might be butchering, but the second, it was definitely like to get to the point. Liquor for the fool. Yeah. It's liquor for the fool.
But the interesting thing about me sharing this is that, I've definitely had to really consider, what this is and what my value is, and
the food of the wise man, but the liquor of the liquor of the fool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, like, and the other thing is, I'm like, okay, I love performing, I love being on camera, I love, being the creative brains behind a production and directing. Like, can I do other parts of a production? Yes, that's the only way I would have been able to get myself this far. But I think it's important to know what you want. And I'm not an entrepreneur who has trouble hanging on to control. I will gladly outsource to someone who can do the job better than I can.
Yeah.
But also, recognizing what I want. And, I think I'm still on the journey to discovering how to integrate my different talents. Like, how you describe this concept with, merging the ability to host and talk and have interesting conversations with comedy, with DJing. I haven't figured out what that integration is for me yet, even though I see my abilities as a performer. I see my and my desire to be someone that people look to for inspiration when it comes to being who they are. And I guess that's sort of saying to be an icon of some sense, which is not the same as fame, even though that could come with it. I've never craved fame. In fact, I actually used to have a huge fear of fame.
Wow.
And I worked through that inside of myself because I was like, well, how am I ever going to be able to truly go for it if I'm scared of being famous? And so I've worked through that. I would say I've pretty much worked through that because I needed to be able to go for it. But being that for people, being someone that people could look to or go to their videos or even just send a DM, depending on how much I can handle, as time goes on, being an art director for, films and productions and having story ideas that I want to share and put out there. And also the live stage. Yeah. Like I grew up acting and, honestly, I'm often intentional, not always, but I'm often intentional about what I display. Like right now, I feel like overall it's been casual, but we've been really talking professional. And so I haven't been like theatric and crazy, but like in my life, like I'm a very theatric person. And like my sister will be like, oh my gosh, yes. And also like, I need an outlet for it. I really do. I have a very big voice. I like musical theater like type of voice where like
I can see that.
I like the voice. Yeah. I can hit some high notes. I'm going to be very honest about that.
I have not had to tell you to get close to the mic or project one single time throughout this episode.
Yeah, no. And that's just like me talking. I'm talking about like actual singing, like, Idina Menzel, like Kelly Clarkson, like these big voices that I'm like, I need an outlet for it. I really do.
Every time I hear Idina Menzel's name, I just think of John Travolta butchering it on the Oscars. Do you know?
No, I don't.
Oh my God, it's
probably because it's spelled with an I.
He had like a seizure while he tried to read that name on the prompter. No. He was like, because she was performing, I think, Let It Go, for the Oscars, and John Travolta's up there. He goes, and now the wickedly talented Idina Menzel, and it just points to not anyone who he just named at all, and it became like the meme of,
oh my gosh,
to the point where like a year or two later, like the Oscars had him like introduce her again, and he was like, "I'm gonna get it right this time." Idina Menzel. Like, they made it work. Yeah. I'm sorry, you just sidetracked me.
No, I mean like that's the casual side of all.
But you were touching on, now that we're kind of winding down here, I wanted to. There's like two specific things. Actually, there's three. Very quickly. Not quickly, but do you ever feel weird or awkward with the camera in public like that? Because you walk around with like a selfie stick, right? It's not.
So it depends. I mean, I used to. It was really hard. Like that is a legit fear for anyone starting on camera. It is challenging, and I'm going to be the first to say, you know what, that's a valid thing because people do look at you. Yeah. And you know what? A lot of people do look out of curiosity, but some people do look at you judgmentally.
Oh, yeah.
Like that is, honestly, I'm going to be honest about that.
Influencers in the wild,
like,
Have you ever seen that page? Like,
no, but I probably should.
There's literally an Instagram page called Influencers in the Wild that's dedicated to recording an influencer, quote unquote, recording themselves in public or whatever. So like, let's say
is it derogatory or is it
it's
maybe I shouldn't see it.
Yeah, it's not. Wouldn't make you feel good.
Don't want
to
find myself.
It's like, imagine you doing your like Bushwick or Ridgewood tour, like, hey, this is the graffiti, and then someone's recording you, like, look at this dumb idiot.
I mean, I definitely think that's probably happened, or that someone snapped a picture, because I've always assumed it's because they're like, is this a YouTuber? I don't know, because I did develop my confidence. Mm-hmm. And it was something I had to do consciously, and it's something that I sort of adopted different mindsets. Like I think the number one, tunnel vision, as much as possible. Only have your peripheral on for safety.
Okay. Yeah.
Peripheral for safety, because you do need to see where you are and what you're doing, but not to observe. And then to the second point, if your peripheral is on for safety, well, you're going to catch the person looking at you because you know what's in your surroundings.
Right.
So the mindset that helped me was, people watching you, like when you're out, don't know who you are.
Right.
You could be a famous influencer.
Yeah.
And if you were, would you be insecure about what you're doing?
Right.
Because you're successful.
Mm-hmm.
Of course not.
Mm-hmm.
So be that person in that moment. And that helped me a lot.
That's good advice.
Until you genuinely don't care. Now, I'm not embarrassed easily either. And I
Okay.
should probably note that. But that was something really tough for me. And then, I've really gotten away from that because I don't love the vlog style. I've done that mostly because having a videographer is a much larger undertaking, both like coordinating financially.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot. And so how else are you going to be your own videographer when you're on the move besides holding the camera in front of you?
Yeah.
Because even though there have been times like with some of my later New York work where I sat down at a table that I could find and put my, Canon R50 on a tripod, that's just not realistic for a lot of the stuff that's going on in those videos.
Sure.
And now I really would like to be away from that altogether with the videos that I'm making, only using the vlog style when it's intentional. Like it's meant to be a segment with the vlog
I see what you mean.
style to create some sort of feeling or something.
That makes sense, and that I did see that I guess shift a little bit in the style of your videos, because I definitely went all the way to the beginning, and I saw your most recent ones, and that's I guess it changed that I didn't even notice until you really pointed it out there.
Yeah.
Another you've alluded or straight up mentioned your desire to direct, and I'm curious, do you mean in the most traditional sense of the form, like direct film, direct stage, direct in that way, or do you mean digital content of a different form? Do you know what you mean even?
So first, not stage. I do not
Not
have
stage.
not stage. I don't have the background to be a stage director.
Okay.
You can put me in the show and I'll be directed.
Got it.
But I'm talking more like film direction, and I know there's some varying definitions within. Like I actually went to the Museum of the Moving Image.
Yeah.
And when I was there, I sat down for like 25 minutes, just me, like by myself off camera, and was scrolling through all the different like definitions for different roles. I wish I could like have that database, like to access it online, because it was where I really started to get an education on what the different things mean and understanding what I am now and what I aspire to be. I'm a video producer right now, but being a producer is not my dream role.
Okay.
Being a director is my dream role. And the way I understand it is, a producer has a lot more to do with bringing the show, like the concept to happen, involved in the financial side of it. The director is more about like sort of the creative brains spearheading the whole thing. And that's what I love doing. Like I love performing and I love being in it, but I also love using my creative brain and being able to conceptualize something and come up with the vision and then direct the team to how we're going to bring this to life. And also happening to be in it, because that's possible too.
That makes sense.
And that's really what I mean by it, referring to like, filmmaking.
Got it. Yeah.
And I have so much room for growth as everything that I am, as a director, as a performer, as a creator. And even with the singing that I talked about, that I need an outlet for that. I know I have a voice and I can do things with my voice that other people can't. And I love doing it, but I'm also recognize that like I need a vocal education so that I use my voice properly, because, like I don't want to blow out my vocal cords just because I can sing wildly high,
Right.
So I've got a lot of room for growth.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
This is going to be the final question.
All right. Let's make this good.
I knew I was going to ask you this during while I was doing my research on you.
Yeah.
And sifting through your 500 plus videos.
Woo!
And
You were busy.
Oh yeah. This may be this is easily the most important question of this interview.
All right.
But it may be the most important question in the entire history of this podcast. So it's important. All right.
Okay. This is some serious buildup.
Yes. And here's the thing. It's a question that you avoided answering purposely in your video. So I'm going to see if I can get an answer out of you right here, right now.
Oh, what is this?
All right. You have visited Yankee Stadium and documented it.
Yes.
You have visited Citi Field and documented it.
Yes.
I think as an outsider that's not from New York, you are one of the perfect people to ask.
Okay.
Which stadium is better? Or which one did you like more?
Ooh, okay. I would say because I'm not a foodie,
Okay.
I preferred Yankee Stadium.
Wow.
But
Get out.
if I was a foodie...
Interview over.
Interview over. But if I was a foodie, there's just no competition.
Everyone that says that I asked this question, they bring up the food, and Citi Field murders Yankee Stadium in terms of food, essentially.
Every stadium.
Really?
I feel like, I mean, not that I'm super experienced with stadiums, but I just feel like Citi Field is just out of this world with food. Like, I mean, and the food inclusiveness too. Like the fact you can get vegan food, you can get gluten-free food.
Yeah,
like you can really get anything you want there without
a lot of cultural stuff too. I think it took to heart that it was in Queens and wanted to be very cultural with its foods too.
Yeah.
But so you're not a foodie. Why did you like Yankee Stadium then?
Okay, so I'll give you some real stuff and also just some stuff that's like objectively I think it's cool. Like,
okay.
So the Yankees have a cool brand, you know, and as someone who is always infatuated with New York, like Yankees is the classic.
Man.
So
All right.
I know this hurts to hear.
Yeah, I don't. Well,
but
it's okay. You're an Astros fan, so it's not like
I am.
you
I'm
like
both.
cheaters.
I
so
consider myself both. It's just sort of like, you know,
you're a fan of cheaters and you're a fan of the Yankees. All right, cool.
Astros and Yankees. But just sort of like home team versus like team of the place that I decided to live adult
you've
life.
adopted the Yankees.
Adopted, yeah. And also like, I don't know. I just think sort of this is just an opinion thing too. Like just the aesthetic, like when you're sitting in the stands and like looking out at like where it says Yankee Stadium and the screens and the fact you can see the subway right behind there. And like, I just kind of love that. I just love that view, you know? And then I think it's cool that Yankee Stadium also has like the kind of the museum areas.
Their museum is really
like
cool,
they have
actually.
the museum and they have the area with like where they honor like all the great players. I forgot what it's called right now.
Their Monument Park.
Yes, Monument Park.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's just sort of neat that they can integrate so much history.
I will say the Yankee Museum there is very well done. They have like a signed baseball of like everyone that's ever been a Yankee, so you can literally see like Babe Ruth's autograph there.
Yes, it's everything.
I guess that's the benefit when your team was actually really good for a long time. As a Met fan, we have like 2 years that we can talk about. So our museum is like a corner.
Yeah.
That's why you noticed it when you walk in. It's the Jackie Robinson Rotunda. He wasn't even a Met.
Right. Yeah.
We're like, I don't know if you know this, but the reason that's even there is that he was a part of the Brooklyn Dodgers.
Okay.
When he broke the color barrier and became the first African American.
Have you been to the Jackie Robinson Museum?
No, I didn't even know there was one.
It's not that old. It's only, I think it's a couple years old. It's cool. It's worth going.
Oh, yeah?
And if you have Culture Pass, I think you can go for free.
I don't, but I did just see you advertise that when I think you went to the Central Park
ice
skating rink.
You know what? I have a flyer in my purse. I'll give it to you before I leave.
All right, there we go.
Yeah, I try to keep it on like for like fellow New Yorkers that don't know about it. I'm like, here, go see all the museums for free.
So you're sponsored by Southwest and by
the public library system. Yes, Culture Pass is run by the public library system. So yes,
you're such a corporate shill. Hava.
I know.
Yeah, all right. It's funny you said that because every time that I pose this question to people, I've had Yankee fans unashamed of admitting that they enjoyed their time at Citi Field, but it's usually the food. They also say that it's a family friendlier atmosphere.
100%, I would agree with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And everything that you liked about Yankee Stadium is actually stuff that I've heard people use as negatives. They think it's too corporate, too branded almost.
I guess it's just, to me, it's iconic.
Yeah.
It's iconic. And like the YMCA, the seventh stretch inning,
when
that's
they do
so
the
fun.
field.
I'm like, can I like be down there doing the YMCA with them? Like that's so cool.
See, I'm the type of person that even though I love the Mets and grew up with the Mets, when me and my buddies go to a game, more often than not, we are rarely at our seats and we're just walking around the stadium, eating, drinking, definitely drinking, and just exploring. You know, like we and then we're like, oh, the Mets are losing again. Whatever. All right, cool. And then we just go get something else to eat at Shake Shack or something like that. So.
I definitely spend like a good amount of time in my seat.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah, you're a better sports fan than me.
Yeah, I like to watch.
I'm a bad sports fan. Yeah. Well, I only like bad teams, so I have to be, you know.
Yeah.
I can't get too invested in my teams.
Yeah.
It breaks my heart. Don't laugh.
Yeah.
All right, this interview.
I went to more Mets games last year than Yankees games.
Nice, because we're cheaper. Yeah.
Actually, though, and also like the games that, like the dates that we wanted to go to.
It's probably rarely sold out too. Like you could get a ticket for free if you give some blood. So.
I will say though, also the other thing is, you get like you can see, like at Citi Field you can see well from anywhere. Like I feel like the last game I went to, we probably had the worst seats, but like I had a great view.
Yeah.
Like really, I could see fine, and like as a joke, but then for real, I brought binoculars because I knew we were gonna be really high. But like. But like it was great without them.
Yeah,
like,
I've grown up in the cheap seats at Citi Field, and I went to before when it was Shea Stadium. So yeah.
Yeah. So, the Shea Stadium.
It used to be Shea. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you for answering a question that you avoided in the past. I am the hard hitting journalist.
Hard-hitting questions
that we need here. All right. So
yes.
I want to thank you for doing this. This was
thanks for
awesome.
bringing me on. This was so much fun.
Before I kick you out of here for answering incorrectly, let's plug all your socials. Let's plug where people can follow, like, and subscribe, all that stuff.
So I'll keep it simple. It's hava.media on Instagram, YouTube, and even my website handle, which I recently redid.
Nice.
And those are really the best places to find me, is Instagram, YouTube, and my website. You can DM me, reach out. I just told you all what I'm about, so that's where I am.
You're only going to get DMs from like angry Met fans now, like, you asshole.
Yeah. We can all have, different opinions, and that's
let's
okay.
get along here. That's what Hava Media is
Let's
really
get
all
along,
about.
Yeah, no, I often avoid like those kinds of things because I'm just like, who cares? Why do you care if I like Yankee Stadium or Citi Field better? Do you like me that much that you care and then you're like infuriated?
I just want everyone to like us.
I know.
It's
the underdog thing.
We're the lovable losers, I guess.
Like, I mean,
if we
but
like,
truly, I love them both. I'll equally go to a Yankees game or a Mets game, and like, but in general, people like get heated about a lot of stuff that I'm like.
Well, it's sad that as Met fans, all we have, we know who the better team is. So I don't ever ask that. I'm just like, well, did you like our stadium at least? Like at least we have that, like, and you took that away from me today. So on that note.
I love them both. They're fun. Honestly, I didn't want to be cheesy and say it's a tie, but they are pretty close.
I would have hated that more. Actually,
I was going to say, if I said it's a tie and they're different, that's a very PC answer.
I love them each in their own way.
Right, exactly. Even though, I mean, like, I do, like, if someone says, do you want to go to a Yankees or a Mets game, I'm going to be excited about either one.
Right.
Or like, because honestly, just New York baseball is fun.
Yeah.
And being not from here, I decided that I take the Yankees as like my team. Like that's the gear that I wear because it's iconic, and just being, excited about New York in that way. I adopted the Yankees because I learned very quickly that trying to adopt both is not a good idea.
No.
But like it's New York baseball. That's what it is. I heart New York. Like.
Good. All right. Whatever you do not choose the Brooklyn Nets over the New York Knicks. That you must be a Knicks fan. I'm just not
into basketball, so I'm just like completely off there. Right. I'm trying to make plans with some friends to go to my first hockey game ever.
I was going to say
ever in my life.
Hockey games. I would definitely suggest a Rangers game at the Garden.
That's what I'm
that
trying
is
to
an
do.
insane. The reason I was suggesting the Knicks is because I think any event at the Garden is Madison Square Garden is pretty awesome. I don't know. Have you done anything at Madison Square Garden yet?
No.
So you've never been to Madison Square Garden.
I've never been.
So you got to go for something at least.
That's what I'm trying. I've also never been to a hockey game in my life. So I'm trying to do that.
I went to my first Ranger game just a year or two ago. I took my girlfriend she's born in Siberia, Russia, and her favorite player is a Russian-born Alex Ovechkin. So he played for the Washington Capitals, and we got to go see him visit New York, and he scored a goal, but the Rangers won, so it was a perfect day.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was awesome. Like I'm not even that huge of a hockey fan. It might be the most fun I've ever had at a sporting event. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
so
everyone says it's fun, so I'm trying to make this happen.
Definitely recommend that.
My dad's a Caps fan. He grew up in that area.
Oh, there you go.
So when Justin Schultz was on the team, we got him because his last name is spelled the same way. So we got my dad the Schultz jersey.
Oh, because you got your last name. Your last name is not Media. It's Schultz.
Yeah. Funny that you mentioned that actually, because I am trying to sort of have people not really know my last name.
Oh, well, we just screwed that up.
Yeah. Well, not in that way. More of like, as I'm building a brand that has, icon potential. If you think about people like, if I say Oprah.
Right. Do you want it to be just Hava then?
Yeah, I want to be just Hava.
Oh, I thought you wanted to be like Hava Media.
That's the name of the business.
Okay.
I am Hava.
Got it.
Not Hava Schultz. I mean, legally I'm Hava Schultz.
Don't
But
worry,
if I say Oprah, her last name is Winfrey, but you didn't think of her last name when I said her name.
Okay.
If I say Ellen...
Right.
You know what I'm talking about.
We know exactly who you are.
We know what her last name is, but we're on first name basis with these people.
Yeah.
I'm
Oh, so that's a good goal to have.
Yeah, I have the advantage of an unusual name.
And it's good. Yeah, I can't do that with Will. That's so
right. I'm like, honestly, how did Ellen do it? Because there are a lot of Ellens.
Well, apparently by dancing in front of the camera and being really mean to everyone behind the camera. So don't do that. So,
oh, no.
Yeah,
that's not in my nature.
All right. So that's good to know, because what you'll see is that when this episode title comes out, you will be just Hava.
Hava.
All right. That's cool, because I literally would have put you as Hava Media. So good thing.
I was born with the last name Media. Born to do this.
Born to do this. Once again, thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I appreciate you so much.
Likewise.
Yeah, be sure to give her a follow, and thanks for tuning in, guys.
Bye.
We did it.
Woo!
Cheers.
Yeah.
Although it's bad luck to cheers with water, but whatever. There you have it, guys. That was my conversation with Hava. I really enjoyed talking to her, I'm not going to lie. And if I'm going to continue not lying, I didn't know I was going to enjoy talking to her that much. I think she kind of felt the same way. I think we both came out of it very happy about how the conversation went. And I think we both got a lot out of it. I'm glad that it happened. It made me more open and a little bit more adventurous, if you will, with who I asked to be on the show. And I think you guys might start seeing that in the following weeks. So once again, thank you, Hava, not just for coming on the show, but for changing my outlook, my way of looking at things a little bit. Really appreciate that. Speaking of appreciating things, I would appreciate it if you guys out there did me a favor and followed me on all platforms. It's 3 words. I'm Will Bryant. You can follow me on Instagram, on TikTok, on X, on YouTube, on Twitch, on Spotify, on Threads, on all of them things. Once again, it's 3 words. I'm Will Bryant. That's Bryant. Like Kobe. And with that being said, thank you guys for listening. I love you all for the support that you show me week in and week out. Don't think that it goes unnoticed. I notice and I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Until next time, peace.